You walk into a room, every head turns, every eye tracks you. Your shirt has a stain, your voice cracked 10 minutes ago, and surely, everyone remembers. Except almost none of them do. Here's the strange part. Most of the people in that room weren't looking at you at all. They were doing exactly what you were doing, worrying about themselves. This feeling has a name. Psychologists call it the spotlight effect. And once you understand where it came from, you will never experience a crowded room the same way again. Let's start with the discomfort itself, because it's real. Your palms sweat, your thoughts loop. You replay a sentence you said an hour ago and cringe like it just happened. That sensation isn't imaginary. But the story your brain is telling you about it, that's almost entirely fiction. In 2000, psychologist Thomas Gilovich ran an experiment that should honestly be more famous than it is. He had college students put on an embarrassing t shirt, something they'd never choose to wear, and walk into a room full of strangers. Afterward, he asked the students to estimate how many people had noticed the shirt. Their guess, on average, was nearly 50%. The real number, when Gilovich actually asked the strangers in the room, 23% noticed, less than a quarter. The students had overestimated their own visibility by more than double. Now, here's where it gets darker and more interesting. This isn't a glitch. It's not a personality flaw or a sign that you're insecure. It's an ancient miscalibration. And to understand it, you have to go back roughly 200,000 years to a version of the human brain that had a very good reason to assume it was being watched. Because for most of human history, sometimes it actually was. A rustle in the grass, a shift in shadow. Being noticed by the wrong set of eyes could mean the difference between walking home and not walking home at all. Evolutionary psychologists point to something called agency detection, a bias so deeply wired into the human brain that it would rather be wrong 100 times than miss one real threat. Your ancestors who assumed they were being watched and were wrong lost nothing. A little wasted vigilance. Your ancestors who assumed no one was watching and were wrong sometimes didn't get a second chance. So, evolution made a choice on your behalf, long before you were born. It chose paranoia over peace of mind, every single time. But here's the twist inside the twist, the part almost nobody talks about. That ancient wiring wasn't just about predators. Psychologist Roy Baumeister, whose research spans decades of social behavior, found something remarkable about human survival strategy. Unlike most predators on the savannah, humans didn't just fear being eaten, they feared being excluded. Being watched by your own tribe carried enormous weight. A single mistake in front of the group, a clumsy hunt, an insulting joke, a public failure could shift your entire social standing. And in a species that depended on cooperation to survive, losing your place in the group was almost as dangerous as losing your life. Read that again. Almost as dangerous as losing your life. That's not a metaphor. That's the actual evolutionary math your nervous system is still running right now in a Tuesday morning meeting where nobody is thinking about you at all. So, your brain built two overlapping alarms into one feeling: watch for predators, watch for judgment. And it never quite learned the difference between the two. This is why a minor social stumble can trigger a response that feels wildly disproportionate to the actual event. Your body doesn't know it's 2026. It doesn't know you're at a coffee shop and not on an open plane. It just knows eyes on me equals danger, and it responds accordingly, even when the only real danger is mild, temporary embarrassment. Here's a question worth sitting with. If everyone else is running the exact same ancient software, walking into the exact same room feeling exactly this exposed, then who exactly is doing all this watching? Cognitive scientist and self perception researcher Kenneth Savitsky, who worked alongside Gilovich on this research, described it simply. People are so worried about how they're being perceived that they fail to notice how little anyone else is actually paying attention. Everyone is the star of their own movie and an extra in everyone else's, including you. That line alone should change how you walk into rooms for the rest of your life. Let's go somewhere most videos on this topic don't go. If the spotlight effect were purely about danger, it should fade the moment danger disappears. It doesn't. Recent research into self focused attention suggests something else is happening underneath the fear, something closer to identity. Your brain isn't just protecting you from judgment, it's obsessively rehearsing who you are, testing your self image against an imagined audience over and over, refining a performance almost no one is watching. In other words, the spotlight isn't just a warning system, it might be an unconscious form of self construction. You are, in a very real sense, workshopping yourself in front of an audience that exists mostly in your own mind. That reframes everything. The anxiety isn't proof that you're being watched too closely. It's proof that your brain cares deeply, maybe too deeply, about who you're becoming. So here's what to actually do with this. The next time you feel that spotlight burning on the back of your neck, remember the number 23%. Remember that the room is not a courtroom and you are not on trial. Everyone else in it is narrating their own imaginary headline, replaying their own imaginary mistake, convinced that you, specifically, noticed you didn't. Not really, and neither did they. You walk into a room. Every head turns, or so it feels. But the truth, the strange, oddly freeing truth, is that almost no one is watching you at all. They're too busy wondering if you're watching them.